Almost Real is a sort of like, it's alternative to the real world. Because a lot of the time we were told, go get a real job or come back to the real world. Because as a creative, they didn't see that as you're not a doctor, you're not going to be a lawyer, you're not going to have this sort of high income earning sort of like salary. But surprise, surprise, yes, you can.
Michelle, thank you so much for coming to visit me here in Melbourne. You're at Fashion Week, so we've been following each other on Fashion Week. I haven't been. I've got troops on the ground sending me gorgeous images, but I'm so excited to have you here with me today and
thank you.
Talk about your incredible journey and your products and how you came about this entire concept of yours. It's fascinating. For those that are not sure what you do, I'm going to let you explain that because you'll explain it way better than I will. So tell us first, what was the moment you feel like you had to kind of transition or elaborate on your journey, and where did the music come from and the creativity and all the rest?
Yeah, so there. Sort of talking about this before, there's so many parts to, I guess, the journey of where I'm at right now is I have a business called Almost Real, and it has evolved and pivoted during COVID into a gallery to feature photography and art from creatives all over the world. Initially, it was a media platform where we were interviewing those creatives and sharing and telling those stories in a time when that wasn't really a thing. And then also, most recently, I've launched a Snaps 35mm film camera, which is an extension of Almost Real. But to go back to the beginning, music was basically my life. I was very much, I'm going to be a musician, a DJ, a guitarist in a band, a sound engineer. I'm going to work for record labels. I'm going to travel the world being a DJ. Like, I just wanted to do it all. And I guess I started as a teenager playing guitar, playing in bands.
No way, really?
Yeah, I was into grunge music. I was the grunge girl. I didn't like dance music at all.
Looking at you now. It's like I can't imagine you being
into grunge. It's funny. It was like that sort of 90s period in a way, right?
Yeah, I'm a 90s girl. Hey.
Yeah. And I think it was actually my guitar teacher at the time when he was like, don't be in a band. He goes, get behind the scenes. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
And I think having him give me that advice and help, and I went to a recording studio, started working as an assistant sound engineer, working with live bands and recording in studios. And then that gave me insight into the world of like record labels and just so much more than I thought that was out there. And so my goal was to work for Sony Music when I was younger, and that's where Pearl Jam released their records, and so I thought, okay, this is where I'm at. And eventually I got there, and it was sort of really such a great journey because it went from bands to record label, but in the meantime I've discovered DJing, and that was a very different aspect of music compared to like playing a guitar.
Yeah, 100%.
And I used to make a lot of like mixtapes, and then one day I heard DJs playing, and I'm like, how do they mix from one song to the other without a gap in between? What is going on here? And everyone's like, it's turntables, Michelle. Have you ever heard of them? Like, no. And so look, 3 months later, I've saved up, bought turntables, and then 6 months later, I'm playing in clubs.
Oh my God.
Playing vinyl like back then. And
what year was this, Michelle?
So I'm going to show my age now, aren't I?
Right. I'm
this
dinosaur.
This would have been, I guess, around the 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So it was back then. It was a very long time.
It was good music in 2000s.
It was great music,
good music in 2000s.
It was. And not that I ever wanted to be a DJ like what a DJ is today, which is
different.
It's a very different digital pop star, like show off kind of expression now, especially with social media, being able to enhance all that. But I didn't have social media back then, so there's limited videos or photos of me, which I'm probably thankful for. So look, sorry, here I am waffling on again.
No, don't. This is
just
fascinating
kind of-
because you know what? I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. DJing back in, because you've taken me back to the dance party days.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age now. It was very different. You followed a DJ because you love their music. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, Carl Cox is playing. Okay, where's he playing?
Absolutely.
You know,
Love him.
and it's like,
Yeah.
I know, and it's like, okay, this person's playing. Where are they playing? And you
Yeah.
kind of literally, it was like this underground. If you knew your music,
Yes.
you'd follow the DJs.
Yes.
And then of course it all kind of changed. Turntables became a bit more like
CDJs,
Yeah,
tiny
yeah,
CDJs,
yeah, exactly.
CDs, like, you know, all USBs now, you know.
Yeah, USBs.
Yeah, so much has evolved and changed, and like as a DJ too, you had to evolve and change with it also.
Yeah.
There's obviously people still playing vinyl, but and it's an amazing sound and skill, but a lot of clubs aren't equipped and set up sonically to actually cater for turntables, because there's all the vibrations happening in a club, and you know, is that going to disrupt the vibration of the turntable, which is going to affect so much more. And I'm not going to go into the technicality of it all, but yeah, it's kind of getting back to it. I feel like I went overseas when I was about 25 for the first time, and I went to Ibiza.
Oh my God, what that would have been fantastic.
That was fabulous. Absolutely enjoyed that. And once I got there, I think by 25 too, I was getting to a stage where I was like, where am I taking this? Like, I'm enjoying DJing. I was one of the very few females in Sydney at the time playing a lot.
Back then, yeah, 100%.
Like playing at places like Sounds on Sunday quite regularly, and playing in King's Cross quite a bit when all the clubs were really happening and circulating. But when I went to Ibiza, and I went to a place called Circo Loco, and there was just this open outdoor pig pen, it felt like back then anyways, and just hearing the music that was being like expressed and played, I was like, what is this? What is this sound? I haven't heard anything like this before. Like, this is amazing. It was almost like this resurgence of like inspiration and creativity, and just also how people put events on.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't get that in Australia, or you're not allowed to. There's rules and regulations.
Too much red tape.
Absolutely.
What would you say was your biggest challenge moving from, I guess, the stability and the safety net of Australia to Ibiza? Tell me about the challenge.
Look, the challenges are, even though I think I was lucky because I did have music industry connections, but it definitely was starting from scratch, not knowing anybody, not understanding a different sort of like, you know, system and a way of life, and having to, you know, I guess in a way it might have been a little bit easier because Australia is so regulated with rules to a place where they're like, you can do whatever you want, you know, so that was embracing. But yeah, I did find that not having the support network of friends or familiarity or family to sort of have your back when things weren't going the right way.
Yeah.
Broke, like young and broke, basically. Like, that's always going to be a place in your life. If you ever want to do business, I feel like you've got to understand what it's like to be broke to really appreciate when you get to those high moments. And I guess sometimes when just unexpected things happened, like how you've got to deal with it all by yourself now. You know, you didn't really have a support network around you to help. My goal was always to live in Barcelona, actually. It was always like this dream to live in Barcelona. And I thought I'd go to Ibiza, then I'd go to Barcelona, and I'd set up some sort of life for myself there. But by the end of Ibiza, I was so broke. I was like, guys, to my friends in London, I'm like, can I come and crash on your couch?
Wow.
I need to find work. And, you know, I could get work in London, and I started working at a record store there, Phonica Records, for a while, and things were starting to pick up and go well. But then I got offered a job at Beatport in Berlin, and Beatport's an online MP3 platform where they sell a lot of electronic music. And they're probably the leader in it when it comes to electronic music.
Really?
You'll probably have Apple, and then you've got Beatport for that specific music.
There you go.
And so I was like, great, let's do this. And I was never planning to go to Berlin, but because of this job, it sent me there. And in the end, I'm so grateful that it did, because I think that what I thought Ibiza was meant to be for me and a career actually was what Berlin was for me. So I still continued to work in the music industry, but I also started to write music and DJ and be around like-minded people, and it was really affordable to live there. Very creative place, very inspiring.
To be taken out of your comfort zone in such an extreme way, as you were describing, away from family and friends and that network, that support system that you had here in Australia, and to go there literally not knowing anyone, and you're really relying on yourself. That's character building, and huge. Again, I'm going to go back to a woman in a completely different country, pivoting in her career to make it work, and making it work, and not only making it work but making it successfully work. Like that's applauding, and that's amazing.
It's funny, sometimes I feel like it was a lifetime ago or a different lifetime, and I sit here going, how did I pull that off? How did I make that work? Like you just do, and it definitely comes with being young and a little naive, and just, I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have a family of my own. I don't have any debt. I'm just focusing on what my career needs to be. It's just me. Some might say it sounds selfish, but it's not selfish in the sense that you're disrespectful to people or anything.
No.
It's just more that, this is my time to have a career. So, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
This is what everyone's been telling me I had to do my whole life. Go and find a career. Okay, I'll go and find one. And this is what it's going to be. And go from there, I guess. But yeah,
that's incredible.
Europe was amazing.
Europe is, I think there's a lot to learn in Europe. I think there's a lot to learn in all cultures, whether it's Europe, whether it's Asia, whether, wherever you are in the world. I think every country, every place brings its own unique versatility and learning.
I feel like travel is the best form of education. I know sometimes young students coming out of high school are being pressured, like, what are you going to do? You need to figure it out. And that's
me with my kids.
It's extremely stressful.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, look, we
Work it out.
We all just want them to have an idea. Like, it doesn't have to be solid, but just have a goal towards something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be really overwhelming, because sometimes you don't know if you want to go to university these days anymore. It depends on what you actually want to do first. And I think travel is the best form of education.
When did you come back to Australia?
I came back in about 2013, 14, I think it was around then.
Yeah.
And I had been in Berlin for a while, and I was sort of thinking, what's the next stage? And I was thinking like maybe LA, because the music scene had changed quite considerably in America, and that was starting to really bubble. It's always been there, but it was really ramping up now. But I was thinking, I might go back to Australia first and just, feel it, be with family, like hang out for a while. And once I got back, I had noticed that they'd caught up on a lot of things, and I thought, okay, maybe it's not so bad here. And I was just DJing a lot more. But that's when Almost Real sort of came about. It was the inspiration of Berlin and being around a lot of creativity, a lot of art, just doing things a little bit differently. And then when I came back to Australia, I realised, well, there's actually a lot of people I know that are extremely creative. And why doesn't anyone know about you? Like, because at the time, no one was sharing a story. And it was still part of blog era,
Yes. Yeah, well, Casper started in 2000, technically 2014.
Yeah.
It was a little blog that no one knew about it.
There you go. So you know the time and that what was sort of going on then. And I just picked up a camera and started taking photos of people and going like, can I come to your studio and just take photos? And they're like, yeah, sure. And look, personally, like long articles have never been the way I digest, I guess, information.
Yeah.
I've always been more visual.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of tell a visual story of somebody and their life or what they're about, so people could literally just look at the pictures and go, oh, that's who they are. That's what they do. I know what's going on here.
And that's a unique quality, because I love art, and I particularly love photography. And I feel like, a good photographer will capture the essence and the mood and the story. And you're right, capturing that moment and that mood is what tells the story, right?
Yeah. And so I think with initially Almost Real was this media platform, and my goal was always to then, I want to turn it into an e-commerce platform, and I want to sell the artists' products to help them. It was meant to be this encouraging way of supporting a community and growing. Yeah. But at the time I was like, I don't know what to do about how do I make a website? How do I do these things? So I just sort of started teaching myself. And I think that's sort of one thing that throughout my career and throughout everything that I've done, upskilling and learning new skills has been the thing that's helped me immensely, helped me to not only understand, even if I end up going, I actually can't do this, but helping me to be able to communicate my needs and wants with projects, but also saving me money a lot of the time too, and when it's as an infancy stage of a business.
Oh, 100%.
And the more you can do yourself, the more then you can sort of like also understand, okay, this has potential. Okay, I'll properly invest into this now. You know, if you're not someone who has all the money and the capital to start a business at the beginning.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's wise advice. You know, learn and upskill yourself. And I must admit, I did the same when I started. I had no idea. You know, my background was hairdressing for over 20 years, so I had no clue. But at the same time, this was a little love project.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you dive deep, and it's amazing through that, as frustrating as that process can be, you know, and I'd imagine you would have experienced the same thing. Going through it's the best thing I ever did, you know, and I'm continually learning.
What made you want to start?
What made me want to start? I got to a point in my life where, a bit like you know, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, hairdressing served me really well. It gave me the backbone in understanding people and communication. It was my creative, I guess, outlet as well. And I just got to a point, well, you know, what do I do now? I had my children. It served me well whilst I was raising the children. It was like, okay, do I open up a salon, a big salon, and look at that business model of perhaps franchising and whatnot, or do I completely shift?
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to do hairdressing anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm a bit
That's
done
how
with
I
this.
felt with music.
Yeah.
I thought this was the only thing I was ever going to do.
Same.
I was so like obsessed with it. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
same.
and one day I was starting, it was almost like this, there was a sadness within me that I didn't quite understand what was going on. And then when I finally realized, I had to admit to myself, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I never thought I would say those words. And I think that was the sadness. It's almost like breaking up with somebody. You still love them, but you know it's probably not the right path for you anymore. And I think that even that grieving part took a while. That's something that maybe when you transition, you may or may not go through in your career. There's a lot more to it than just going, I'm just going to change now. Like, and
Because it's a part of your identity.
Absolutely.
That's what I found. And I experienced exactly the same thing. And I'm glad you brought that up and articulated that, because I remember, now that you brought it, I remember going, it was almost, I don't want to call it depression because it wasn't depression, but it was that sense of sadness, and I felt lost, actually. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, I'm Maria the hairdresser.
Yeah.
You know, people come to me because I give fabulous blow waves and fabulous highlights and great haircuts.
You do have fabulous hair, by the way. So
Thank you. I thought I'd impress, bring out the toolkit.
Yeah.
No, but I just, you know, so much of your career is so part of your identity, and you nailed it. Like, it's that morning of, okay, who am I going to be now? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's exciting too, because you can be whoever you want to be, or you can cultivate whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
How did you go about that? How did you go about from, what am I going to do now?
When I was, it was in Berlin that's when I started to have these feelings.
Yeah.
I think that's why I thought maybe I need to move away from Berlin and change it up, different environment. And at the time, I actually already I had a little blog still. I don't even think it was called Almost Real. It was something else. But I was already sort of interviewing people just for fun, just to see, like, I like hearing stories. I like hearing about other people's adventures. Like, and every time I spoke about what I was doing as a little side project, people would go, you light up when you talk about this. Like, there's something in this. You need to pursue it. And I'd be like, really? I'm just doing because I'm enjoying it. It's not with intention to do anything more than what it is. And when I got back to Australia, and then again, I was feeling lost, and I'm like, I don't know where I want to go. not everyone's doing what you're doing in a career. So even if you go and have a conversation with your friends, they might potentially not understand, or they might just go, oh, you're just depressed, or what are you doing? You're changing careers. Why would you do that?
That's what I got. Yeah.
They might not understand that journey that's for you, and so I think once I figured out that I was getting real happiness and satisfaction by helping others, I think for the first time ever, I went, maybe I'm not meant to be the artist. Maybe I'm meant to be like the behind the scenes and the nurturer and help. Like, I've learned so much from my music career and all facets of the industry that maybe it's my turn now to sort of give back and help these creatives that they know what they want to do. So, but sometimes an artist is an artist. They don't know how to get themselves and propel themselves into a full career. So I think that's what I was sort of trying to aim and achieve with Almost Real. Almost Real is a sort of like, it's alternative to the real world. Because a lot of the time we were told, go get a real job or come back to the real world. Because as a creative, they didn't see that as you're not a doctor, you're not going to be a lawyer, you're not going to have this sort of high income earning sort of like salary. But surprise, surprise, yes, you can. But just back then, I don't think maybe our parents or their parents' generation couldn't understand
it was all
the
about
opportunities.
Security, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Back then, I mean, I don't know about your parents, but my parents were migrants, so it was all about, come here, work really hard, save up, buy the house, put a roof over your head, feed the kids, get a car, help set them up, and it was always about, work hard, save your money, buy the house, your dream house, and get the security.
Absolutely achievable. But doesn't have to be that sort of linear pathway of how they expect you to get there.
100%.
You can still do that in your own way and
100%.
get to that same goal. And look, I had struggles with support and being understood for the journey that I wanted to take and things.
I feel like that's a lot of creatives though too, right? I feel a lot of creatives struggle with that, and I feel like that family dynamic, even now, I can see it in some of my creative friends. It's like, but I really love doing what I'm doing, but doesn't really pay the bills. And it's in that mindset too, I think, as well.
And you know what? It's probably not always going to pay the bills, and you might have to get a second job or have it as a project for a moment. But then if it's truly what you want to do and you're good at it, it actually will eventually pay off, and you will get there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a timing thing sometimes also.
Yeah.
So it was just Almost Real sort of evolved, and I think COVID happened basically, so let's cutting a really long story short.
You started Almost Real before COVID, right?
Yeah, so 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
And it's successful, and
I was doing really great.
You've got all your creatives on board and you're supporting them.
Yeah.
And then COVID hits.
Yeah, and even to the point before where it's like I was doing really amazing collaborations with people like Optus they're like, we really like this format you're doing. Can you go and interview these creatives for us and take their photos? And we want it in an Almost Real sort of way. And having brands want to do activations with Almost Real, or we put on gallery exhibitions with Almost Real artists. And so there was a lot of sort of like culture and community growing from this. But then just before COVID was happening, I think I was having what's that next stage now? I've been doing this for a while and it's working, but I need to evolve. It's like these projects are a part of you, And then COVID happened, and then I think, look, I feel like I didn't really get creative during COVID. I'm going to be very honest. A lot of my friends are like, I had all the time in the world. I grew I made a new album, or I created a new paint series or something, and I said I felt so stifled and I felt so uninspired, and I didn't know how to draw inspiration and creativity through COVID, and I was a bit sad, because I thought this is the perfect time to reinvent yourself. Why can't I think of anything? I've always had ideas. Why am I just stumped? What's going on here?
But maybe that's what you needed.
Maybe that's what you need sometimes, that break.
You
and
need
eventually
a pause.
Towards the end, I thought I always wanted to do the e-commerce platform to sell. This is what I'm going to do. And look, since being back in Australia, I did go and study web design. I did try to sort of move forward into that area. And then went, okay, let's do this. Shopify, here we go. Let's try and understand you and what are we going to do with this? And yeah, so it's been a journey. It's always been self-taught as well, with the occasional like course along the way. Or maybe you've got friends that work in the industry and you're able to sort of like ask them a few questions of like, how do I move from here to here? And But yeah, now I guess Almost Real sort of turned into that. It's an art platform where I started with photography because I thought, geez, trying to sell all these different mediums, this is going to be mind-boggling. We'll just start here first and see how we go. And that's been great because it's a medium I really love as well. It's probably a harder medium to sell because everyone's a photographer these days with their cameras compared to like a unique artwork. However, it's telling the story of the artist and that background that I think really connects with the customer and the artist and making them feel like, you know, I've got a connection here, and that's why we buy art, right? That connection.
100%. So it sounds to me like it went from a very kind of physical business, would you say, activations and showcasing art in art galleries, to COVID hits, and then it's gone into more of a digital business.
It was almost like if COVID was going to exist forever, everyone was going online, weren't they? How do you manage this as a business? How do you pivot? And so that was the time to do it, and so that's what I did. And then and it's funny, you might also feel the same. Part of me is like, why did I choose art? I know the music industry. Why did I go and pick an industry that I don't know much about? It's just I just love it, and I love the creativity, and I love art, sure, but it wasn't my industry. I don't have like a dial of contacts that I can just like, hey, can you help me? It's like starting all over again, and it made you just go, why didn't I just stick with the music industry and think of something within that? But I think also too, it pushes you. I was like, where's the challenge in that, you know? And you don't have to do the same thing for the rest of your life. And sometimes you don't know if you're doing the right thing or not.
And that's okay.
And that's okay though. I think that's the thing that you have to keep reminding yourself. Like you might be overwhelmed or you're not sure if it's the right direction, but you're like, but it's okay. You know, it's all going in the right direction in some respect. It might not be exactly what you thought at this point of the career, but it's all going in a positive direction, and that's all we can hope for.
So there is a lot on your plate, you know, and like I like you're juggling the platform. Are you still producing music, or are you completely done?
I'm doing that for fun.
So then you developed Snaps.
Oh, let's get to here now.
Snaps is
a 35mm film camera.
That's right.
That is an extension of Almost Real, and it was always a goal of mine to sort of have some sort of creative extension of Almost Real where it's kind of my own. I'm always promoting other artists and doing stuff for them, which I love. But then I was like, I'd like a little project within my project, you know? And
just want to add more to my plate? Why
not? Also, it gives an opportunity for everyone to be creative. You know, it just gets you off your mobile phones. It gets you more present at the moment.
Juggling an art platform and music sounds intense. How do you handle the hustle in both, and do you find any cool overlaps between curating art and making music?
I don't find personally now at this stage of my career that there's too much hustle between music and art, because music now is more something that I do personally and as a creative, and I'm thankful I still get to DJ and I enjoy it. So I live in Bali, I still get to play. And then the art is probably more the hustle out of the two, because it's still that newer venture and still always learning and growing from it. But the good thing actually is, you're right, that both of them do cross over really well, and I'm able to work on a lot of activations for brands or events where I'm curating music, where it's a playlist or not, but it's for a specific event. So in a way, it's like you're taking this artistic direction from somebody. and they want a certain genre of music, or they want a particular song at that moment of when something is unveiled, or I'm working on the Noosa Food and Eat and Drink festival that's happening in a few weeks, and was able to curate all the entertainment for that. And
fantastic.
So there's always been a lot of great projects. I worked on this event called Zone Out Festival just before COVID, and it was all sort of like neoclassical music. And,
wow.
And within that performance, every sort of studio had different light activations and visual elements with it. So I feel like there's been a great crossover these days because technology and like just video production and LED lights, and that it just brings all those senses into sort of one. I hope I didn't say too much.
No. Honestly, just keep talking. It's fine.
Yeah.
I love, you're right, it does, music and art and all of that, it intersects.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does. And I think...
especially with AI too.
Yeah, that's interesting.
AI, like there's this AI artist that I love, Rafik Rold, I hope I pronounced his name right. He's, I think it's Turkish background, and he does this amazing AI artwork where he uses music and then creates art, and it's a visual feast and hearing feast, and it's superb, and they're two different. You look at how he works in the background with all these high techy people in the background, and it all comes together, and you look at this art and you go, wow, that's phenomenal. You know, so I feel like there's so much crossover between the both.
Absolutely.
Has there been a particular project or collaboration that really stuck with you and taught you something unexpected?
When I was interviewing a lot of the creatives, even though they all did very different mediums as artistic expression, the message was the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's what taught me the lesson, where I was expecting to just get completely far removed people with different messages, but it came back to that being that authentic self.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most important lesson that I learned with what I was doing, because that also helped me understand what I'm meant to do moving forward too.
Yes.
So in a time of uncertainty, trying to find your authentic self, which is hard. It's not easy. You're still trying to do it. We always are, but trying to find it, I should say. So that was a really important lesson at the very beginning.
Yeah. It's a good lesson though too, I think, as well. What's next on the horizon for you? What can we expect from Almost Real or any of your other projects? Have you got anything you can share with us?
I feel like Snaps launched literally just before Christmas.
Yeah.
I think once I found like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this sooner? It was one of those moments of like, what am I going to do? And then when it had happened, it just quickly happened. Even to the point where I was like, do I need to do a brand guideline workshop? Do I need to figure out what I'm going to call it? What color is the camera going to be? Everyone was like, stop overthinking. You know what you want, just do it. And
I love that.
We did. They were like, figure it out later as you go along. And
it's very on brand with Casper.
The tradition is sit there, figure out the plan, figure out, what's your brand guidelines, your marketing plan, your digital plan, all of that. Where I was like, just get it out there, just do it, because otherwise you're going to overthink to the point, like maybe I still wouldn't have had it out by now because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that font. I don't know if that's the right color. I would have been that person.
You're at Fashion Week. I'm going to divert to Fashion Week now. What did you think this year? You saw a few shows?
Yeah.
Who did you see?
I only got the chance to see the Mastani show because I was I couldn't go to every day. But what I've noticed is sheer is definitely a trend. Everyone's brought some sort of element of sheer into their collections.
You heard it straight from Michelle. Sheer is on trend.
But done really well.
Yeah.
And it's Pip with PE Nation reinventing her brand, and big shout out to her, because look what she's just managed to, this is her new beginning. She's the only creative director now, and she's managed to take an approach which I've always loved, is I don't need to see the logo on my clothes all the time.
Thank you, Pip.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of seeing PE Nation all over Brighton.
It's an evolution, and clothing is meant to be a reflection of yourself. But that's why I'm always wearing black. I feel like you won't see a logo. I might be wearing designer, but you don't need to see that. It's just I like luxury. The chicness of it, and being able to create without using everyone's logos all over you sometimes. And each to their own. But
I think. What's your personal style?
Tailored. If I'm in
Tailored.
Australia, I love tailored. I'm always wearing a suit jacket or a pant.
Why?
I've always resonated more with a tomboy approach to fashion and street style,
Yeah.
as opposed to a dress. Like if you see me in a dress, it must be a very important occasion, you know. But I love dresses. That's the thing. I love fashion on other people. And go, God, wish I could pull that off.
You could.
But when I put it on me, it doesn't feel like me. But then if I, like today, I'm wearing a man's, I guess, suit shirt and
But you look
and
fabulous.
pants, but this is what makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
What excites you about fashion?
look, I don't. What excites me now, I think I've grown into fashion. When I was younger, it wasn't important to me because, again, I was always like music, and I didn't really, at the time, see that fashion is just as important as the music. They complement each other quite considerably, and it helps create your identity. But I think I was like, it doesn't matter what I wear, it's the music that should speak for themselves. So I was a bit naive when I was younger. But then as I got older, I was like, what's my style? Like, what am I? Like, what do I like? I was trying to figure it out. And I think once I found the tailoring sort of side of things and was like, I'm comfortable in this, and I've grown with that. I think the excitement is always actually the discovery of new labels. It doesn't always have to be the same label all the time, you know, or what everyone else is wearing. I do like now that I've found a connection with fashion to help my identity and to help my show my personality, trying to be a bit different in the norm, right? Like today, for example, I was like, Michael, what do I wear? I don't know. He's like my...
You're asking the swimmer.
Oh, he's my...
Put your budgies on, Michelle, and get it done.
He's my girlfriend, like my wife. I should be like, because he's got great fashion like sense. So sometimes I'm like, what do I do? What do I wear? I don't know. And I'm putting the suit jacket on. I'm putting things on. I'm like, but now I feel like I'm too serious. This isn't me. Should I? And he's like, no, but that looks good. And I'm like, sure, you can look good, but it doesn't feel like me. And then I found these and I put those on and I put my sneakers on and I'm like,
I love it.
I'm feeling this now, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
So it's funny how sometimes like he'll challenge me to sort of do things and I'm like, I don't know. But like, you know, within the challenge and within my own sense of style, we figure it out somehow.
There's a side hustle for you, Michael, if you're listening.
Absolutely. We also call him Martha.
Martha.
Sometimes too.
Why do you call him Martha?
Because he's good at the decorating and the home at home bits and pieces.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Where can people find you? Where can people find this gorgeous little Snaps camera? Where do we follow you? I know you've got, your professional and your personal. Run us through your website.
Yeah, so almostreal.me, because unfortunately .com was taken, so almostreal.me, and you can purchase the camera snaps on Almost Real because it's a camera by Almost Real.
Yeah.
But there also is the snaps.com.au website also that you can head to as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You've been...
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.